Welcome to episode 8 of the Scaffchamp edition of the View with Vertex. I'm joined now by my final guest of the day. We've been very patient and waiting around. We have the managing director of I-Scaff, a layer company based in Edinburgh, is it?
Just outside Edinburgh,
Just
based
outside
over in
Edinburgh.
Fife. We arrived a bit earlier than everybody else has. A couple of miss-ups with flights, so rather than fly halfway around Europe to get here, we decided to just fly out a day earlier and spend a bit of time here.
Soak up a bit of the culture.
Soak up some of the culture, and it's been great. The customer services has been great. Everything in the restaurant's absolutely fantastic. The weather as well.
Very relaxed as well. Yeah, when I got off the plane, it was like, I've just got back from Turkey.
Yeah.
And I jumped off the plane, I was like, wow. You know what I mean? It was really warm.
We have just broke nice weather in Scotland. Spent the whole month wondering when it was going to come.
Apparently it's supposed to cool down tomorrow though.
Yeah, you'd think so. It'd be good for the guys.
Yeah, I think it'd be better. Because even 25 degrees to be slogging it out like that, direct sunlight, it's going to be a difficult one for me.
So we're out doing a bit of scoping for next year, possibly.
I'd love to see a British team involved. I think everybody.
We did think about it, and then me and Dave decided we'll come out this year. We'll have a look around, see what the competition's like, because 15 teams. Yeah. Some of them are previous contenders. We don't know what we're up against. So
I think that's sensible.
We'll have a look at it. And what we're going to probably portray it to the guys is we'll do it as a bit of maybe a team building / a team
reward.
Yeah, a team building reward sort of thing. If we perform well, health and safety is good and consistently throughout the year, then we can look at coming here, pick a nice team. Reward the guys. Great
reward for me and Matt were only saying a couple of minutes ago, me and Matt Parkin, what a reward that'd be for,
Yeah.
Both of us have had the privilege of being able to work abroad, and how much it broadens your horizons in coming to events like this, the meeting different people from different cultures. We were saying about languages and
but see when you share interest, language barrier doesn't matter. Yeah. We're all here. It's like everyone says football is the language of the world. Yeah. When you're a bit of a scaffolding pervert, we're all here. We've came to Lithuania. There's probably more than 15 countries, people here.
Yeah.
Because you've got your Simon boys from Scaffolding. They come from Australia. Mixture of people. We've all collectively known each other and who we all are.
Yeah, that I found interesting. Yeah.
And then we're finally here. We're physically face-to-face meeting, and we're all here through the same scope of interest. So immediately we've all got common ground.
Yeah, I think it is very helpful that everybody speaks English, by the way. That should be noted.
Well, one of the things...
You might find this as well, I don't know if you do, but a lot of the times when I've been abroad, and I've been trying to learn the language, it's always like the same as you, try and pick up some words, please, thank you, it's polite, to be able to say these things. But everybody knows English, so they just, as soon as they see you struggling, they want to help you, so they default to...
Yeah, the British people, I would say we are very lackadaisical and lazy when it comes to that. And I said to Big Dave earlier on there, I said, this is the first country that I've actually ever visited in my life.
Well, you didn't know?
I didn't know one single word. So, we were all out for a meal last night, a few of us, and at the end of the restaurant, the service was impeccable. And we said to them, have you got a couple of minutes? Teach us some words. What do you want to know? I said, please, thank you, hello, goodbye. Forgot a couple of them already, but she spent the time with us, and I thought, it's the first country I've actually ever visited where I never knew a single word at all.
And when you listen to, I was speaking to Oleg about the language, I was ignorant, really. I thought it would be like a Slavic language, it'll be similar to Russian. And he's like, no, not really. It's Lithuanian. It's its own language, and he said it's much softer. It's kind of not as abrupt, slightly different alphabet. I'm like, fucking hell, it's really, really interesting.
Yeah. Since we've arrived, it's been excellent from start to finish. There's still a couple of days left, so
I know.
Seeing what's going on.
Well, I was saying tomorrow's the night in it to get stuck in. I think tonight I'll have a couple. I want to visit that. You went to a cigar bar, did you?
No, I didn't.
Oh no, you didn't go.
I didn't go to a cigar bar. Went to a really, really nice tapas place, but
it was me recommended it to you.
You recommended it to me.
Yeah. So the Kiwazo lads said that he'd been to this place and got cigars, and it was like all in the old town and everything. I said, I'm
not a big cigar fan, but when in Rome, when in Lithuania, I'll crack on and get involved with what everybody else is doing and give it a shot.
So I fancy giving that a visit, but there seems to be loads of different places to visit. So you've got everything, haven't you? You've got the Scaffchamp event there, which we're all here for. You've got the fact that you're meeting loads of different people, which is always interesting. And then you're in a city that...
It is absolutely beautiful. It's so well kept. It's just really... We've been out for a couple of nights there, went for a lovely meal and stuff, and I think we're heading to a Peruvian restaurant tonight, which is meant to be really good. So looking forward to that. It's just it's good not to be living life by the clock.
Yeah.
I feel I live my whole life watching the clock, and you're busy, consistently got something to do. So much so to the fact that there's this now self-created anxiety where when you're doing nothing, you feel like you should be doing something. And there's this inner guilt comes through. It's like, I'm sitting with my feet up watching, even on a Sunday, you're watching TV, the family like, I could really jump on the computer and I could probably catch up a couple of things, and I feel a bit guilty for not doing this or whatever for that. And it's just been really good to pre-organise. So before we left the office Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I sort of front-loaded my week, done all the stuff that I needed to do. Still been working bits and bobs this morning when I got up emails and quotes from the apartment. And then it's great to just sit back, people watch, not be clock watching. It's been really relaxing, and I probably needed it to be.
I think it'll benefit you.
Yeah.
You need that bit of a time to sort of switch off, don't you?
Yeah.
I think as well with doing it with colleagues, people have this thing about family time.
Yeah.
And I think family time should be sacred. I do believe that. But I do think you need a bit of time with your colleagues that's not work.
I'm here with Dave. He's my business partner. And what happens is me and Dave have been mates since we've been like 15 and a half, maybe 16 years old.
You can tell as well.
Yeah. So we're probably best mates. We've known each other since we were 16 years old. But now that we're in business, right, we don't spend personal time with each other. So people will say, oh, you and Dave, you do a lot of stuff outside the work. Nah. Do you go for meals? Do you and the wives go for, Dave's getting married this year in September. And it's like, oh, do you all go out quite often and stuff like that? No, we don't. Because we do spend so much time. I mean, my office is, there's a meeting room between me and Dave's office. We spend quite a bit of time with each other. So, like, when it comes to Friday at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock when we're checking out, we literally try and not message each other or anything like that. Unless something pops up and it's a good idea and it's like, a bit of crack or that.
Yeah, something comes in where you're like, we won that thing.
It's really, really good to come to Lithuania out of the work environment, but still something that's the same.
Yeah.
Because what happens in these situations is, this is where ideas blossom. It's situations like this where you're out of your work situation and in a neutral environment, ideas start to fathom, and you're brainstorming as such, but not in this restricted work area.
Yeah, you see that you kind of see the opportunities.
And then when you're in Europe and all these other countries, you start to, you mix all this stuff up. So you see other guys doing stuff and you see the way people are in general, and you're like, well, how can we implement that? How can we do that? That's a great idea. Did you see what those guys were doing? Yeah, I quite like what they were doing there. And you just start to, like, life experiences and everything like that. You're bringing loads of different stuff in. And if you were stuck in an office environment all the time together, you become boxed into these four walls and you can't see the outside.
I found the same thing, but believe it or not, like when we had the scaffolding business, me and Lee went to Letchworth. It was supposed to be me, Lee and Dave. Dave couldn't go for some reason. And we went to, it was for the launch. So we were there. And yeah, the same thing. It was just like, we spoke to David at Brown Scaffolding. They used to do the quotes. They do it by hand. What software you use. It just little bits and pieces like that. Just like, sometimes I guess you need, especially for us because we were a young business, we needed those little taps of reassurance to say, oh, these are fucking absolutely smashing it, these guys.
Yeah.
And they're doing the same as us. And in some cases, we're doing things that they're not doing yet.
Yeah.
And you do, but you're in that informal environment where, like you say, the idea, they can nest and sort of ferment a little bit.
Yeah.
To borrow a bear phrase.
Yeah. And as well, you're not getting, like, when we're at work, we're quite a busy company. And it can be relentless to the fact it's like, you don't even get time to go for a pee during the day. And it comes to the end of the day, you're like, I haven't even had my lunch today. And then you have other days where it's like, you feel like you've not done as much and you're guilty because you're like, I feel like I've not done much today. But we've been out here, it's been a lot more relaxed and it's just been good. I probably needed it, to be fair.
You don't realise it until you have that bit of, you take the foot off the gas a little bit.
The only thing now is you have to like justify to the wife now that I need a work holiday and a family holiday.
Yeah.
Try and get, all that squeezed in.
A friend of mine, he's just recently got into golf, and he said to me, when I go on golf holidays, said the missus doesn't know. He said, if I said I was going on a stag do, I said I'd be getting it right in the neck. We said, like you're saying, like a real holiday and a work holiday.
Yeah.
When it's for things like,
it's
scaffolding, so it's okay.
So if you look at that from the outside in, then subconsciously looking in at that, right, and what the wife's perception is, and see how he is after each of the events probably plays a part in how she feels towards it, because if he's going away in a stag, he's coming back rough as toast or whatever it is, then he's maybe a bit of a pain in the arse to have around the house.
Yeah.
But then when he's going away on a golf holiday and he's had a good time and he's stress-free and he comes back and he's all chilled out, and she's probably like, no, it's quite nice to have you back.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, because I think
it's just...
my missus' dad gets away with it as well with fishing. He goes fishing like all the time.
Yeah.
Like France, and I think he's been to Canada and places like that. And the perception of it is just different to, I'm going on holiday with Ross. Where are you going? I don't know, just going on holiday. To be like, you fucking not.
Yeah.
But if I said, me and Ross were speaking and he plays golf and I've started playing golf and we're going, oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah. Well, we've said this very phrase on this show earlier on today, and there's one, I'm probably going to get myself in trouble with this with the PC brigade, but there's one inherently big problem with that statement. They never fucking happen.
I must be quite lucky, to be fair. My wife, she is a gem. Like, she's been a good support when we build the business. Yeah. And then in turn now, tables have changed. I worked in the Middle East for a lot of years, and we've got 2 kids. We've got Jay, he's 15, and we've got Josh, he's 8, and quite an age gap between the two of them. So, like, with the 15-year-old one, we're slowly getting our life back, because we're like, he's getting older, he's not out in nappies anymore, and you get to do more social stuff, and then you feel pregnant again. But when I was working in the Middle East, Jennifer done all the home stuff, looking after the house, looking after the kids, looking after the finances. All I was doing was away making the money. And then just recently there, she decided that she wanted to give up her job after 10 years of working for the local government council. And it's a funny story, actually, because, well, it's not funny. It wasn't funny at the time. For ages, Jennifer had been unhappy working there. And I'm like, fucking give it up. Give it up. I was working in the Middle East anyway. I didn't really bother.
Yeah.
Like, give
so
it
the
up.
money's
If you're unhappy,
okay,
if you're unhappy, do something that you find truly up, like you want to do, give it up. If it makes you miserable every day and you're not feel like you're progressing, just give it up. And then the oil and gas prices crashed and I got made redundant. And I came home I finished my rotation.
Imagine that. And what did you do about that job? I give it up, like you said.
Well, that's what I was getting to. So I've always had a separate hobby of, like, investing in properties and renovating and stuff like that. And we'd bought one where we were. We found this house, bought it, and it needed a lot of work. So I fired the deposit in, bought the place, blah, blah, blah. And then I got made redundant, came back. And Jennifer came back and she's like, oh, I've got something to tell you. I was like, oh, so have I, actually. And she's like, well, I've gave my job up. And I was like, I've just been made redundant.
Fucking hell.
And it was like, you've just bought that house. It needs a lot of work done to it, blah, blah. And I'm like, but you worked through it.
Yeah. I think they make you stronger as well, those experiences.
But I have to admit, I have been quite lucky. Like, I don't get much hassle at all.
I joke about it because I get it in the neck a lot, but I probably do ask a lot of Sarah. She does the podcast editing.
It's good
a lot of the time, and she
the good thing for us,
the kids as well,
at the time was me and Dave both got invited to the NSC Awards, probably about 3 years ago now, 4 years ago now. We weren't members at the time.
I was going to say that's a strange one, isn't it?
We've just recently become accredited members of the NSC, but before that, we got invited by Layer as guests. And that was the first time it had ever been held in Scotland, I think. So we got invited, and I took Jennifer, and it was one of the best, not only the best corporate nights I've ever had out, but it was just an excellent do that they put on. It was fantastic. And it was funny because
it's one of those things you don't get to do a lot in it. That black tie.
And it was really well put on, and a guy had the kilt on. It was just a really, really nice night. And we'd been working hard in the business, me and Dave, and at that time there was probably only, maybe 10 members of staff, and we were working all the hours under the sun as you do. And your wife's just plodding along with you, doing what she needs to do to help support you do it. And went to the NASC do, and by that time we'd probably picked up a couple of sort of really nice bespoke products, and we'd probably started doing the marketing and social media really well. And the next morning, or was it at that night, Jennifer came and kind of sat beside me at the table, and it was the first time Jennifer had actually said, you and Dave aren't really fucking kidding on here, are you? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, no, you are really serious about this fucking scaffolding.
It's hilarious, isn't it?
And I was like, what do you mean really serious? She says, well, you know that guy over there in the tuxedo? And I was like, yeah. She's like, he knows who you are, and he's from London. And it was actually Lee Roswell from GKR.
Right.
He'd been at the bar, and he said to Jennifer, well, who are you here with? And she says, well, we're guests of Layer, but my husband owns I-Scaff. And he went, oh, Ross Brown.
Yeah.
I know him. I've seen him doing stuff on social media. And she's like, it just dropped that, to certain people that show a little interest and don't look too far in it, they're like, oh yeah, the guys are pissing about a bit of scaffolding, they're trying to make a wee living for themselves. But then the penny dropped. She was like this big. It was obviously the occasion, decent event.
Yeah,
some real big players in the scaffolding market were there, and one of them knew. And
your name is being mentioned,
and we've just driven it from then on.
Yeah.
It's a passion.
Yeah,
not necessarily highly money driven.
Yeah, I think if you focus too much on the money, you will lose it anyway.
You feel like you become a slave to it.
Yeah, and not even just that. I mean, everything's got to have a price. Everything's got to have a value. And I've worked with people like this, and you're like, well, not really. Sometimes you have to give a little to get a little. Business is about relationships. It's about helping people, and it's about the success of the customer. Ultimately, if you can show them, they say sell them the vacation, don't they? Like you want to show them what is possible by working with you as a business. And sometimes you have to lose a bit in the first instance.
Yeah.
Whether that's time, whether that's, money and or whatever.
So we established the business in 2016 now. And it's only just now that me and Dave are starting to get the personal time back.
Mm.
We were doing 7, 14, 16, sometimes 18-hour shifts at the beginning. Like many business people have, starting up a scaffolding company. It's hard. It's labour intensive. There's loads of moving parts. And only now, so many years on, 2023, we're starting to get the time back. We don't work the weekends anymore where we used to. We'll now always, if anything comes up, we'll just give it to the staff. And we've got management teams in place now, and let them organise it. And this is us slowly getting back now. Yeah. It's not all about taking money back out the company. We're taking the time back. But I'd rather just now, Monday to Friday, Saturday, weekends off with the family, doing what we need to do.
I think that'll help you grow the bit, because like you say, it's those off times where you have the ideas, where you see where you can perhaps go. It's hard to see sometimes what you're doing when you're at the coalface. Do you know what I mean? You need to take that
step back.
Yeah,
you can't work on the business when you're working in the business. Yeah. And loads of people, if you listen to endless podcasts and books, and that's what I do now, I spend a lot of time listening to podcasts, reading books and stuff. And the mantra is, you cannot work on your business if you're too embedded in it.
Yeah.
And then you need to get this detachment where you're so protective over your business and your baby that you feel like you need to not almost micromanage everything, but you need to be involved in everything.
Mm.
But we've now slowly moved away from this, right? Well, me and Dave can't do everything. Therefore, we need to employ good people who can, good people who are trusted.
There's so many people who do that, and then they tell them exactly what they micromanage and tell them exactly what they do. It's like, if you thought they were good people, fucking let them do the thing that you thought they were good at.
And I want them invested just as much as we are.
Mm.
And we're sharing all the journey with them now. We've just bought 1.5 acres of land off the local council where we are. We're building a 1.5 acre concrete yard, all fully fenced. We've got 30 metre by 22 metre bespoke office building with a workshop inside, HGV servicing bay. And we've discussed it from the very beginning what our plans were with the staff. Mm. And every time there's a progression, drawings come through, bang on the WhatsApp group chat with boys, here's all the drawings, put it on social media. Here's the drawings, get the boys in. Here's the 3D renders. This is what the building's going to look like. So there's a constant reassurance that we're heavily investing in the people that are in the business. We're investing in the asset with the business itself. So it makes people feel secure. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and that they're part of the
growing
success
within the business.
Yeah.
We got them together when we were designing the offices and said, it's going to be your offices anyway. Me and Dave's going to be upstairs, but downstairs is all going to be you guys. What do you want? Do you want open plan? Do you want separate offices? Do you want glass partitions? And make them feel involved from the very beginning.
Mm.
And it starts that it repays itself.
Yeah, because then when they see that stuff coming to fruition, also, sort of you're proving yourself that you're accountable to them. You're saying, look, we've said we're going to do this thing. We've delivered it.
I don't know what it was like.
Or you guys have helped us deliver it, I should say.
I don't know so much what it was like down where you were, but when I served my apprenticeship in Grangemouth Oil Refinery with Hertel Services at the time, they're now owned by Ultrad. You were probably subconsciously just week to week. You never knew if you had a job. That's just the way contracting industry is. You're busy on a shutdown. And
the same with the Shetlands. And then you get the little whispers. The rumour mill starts
8 weeks,
going.
6 weeks.
4
weeks.
They're paying us off in 5, and and
it's like back then we got paper pay slips every Thursday, and it was like, is it going to get stapled with a letter and you're getting paid off?
It's an anxious sort of thing, isn't it?
And a lot of our scaffolders probably lived by that as well. And this is the real first time in my whole entire life when I started I-Scaff, is I had a full confidence in job security because it was only going to be what we made it.
Yeah.
So you are, the only reason me and Dave were going to end up, when we started the business, the only reason me and Dave were going to end up unemployed is if it wasn't a fucking success.
Yeah, if you stop.
Yeah.
The thing is, you can always downscale as well, can't you? And then reset and adjust. And
yeah, we've had a couple of times where we have been really busy and high in manpower. At this moment in time, average payroll now, we've got 30, we fluctuate between 30 and 50, but we average around about 37 members of staff.
Felt an achievement, though, really.
It's a good, decent number, and it's quite a comfortable number. We've had 55, 60, and at the time we weren't sure if that extra 15 people was really worth the stress.
Right.
And the financial stretch and everything that is to pay them. We're really comfortable between 30 and 40. Not saying that I don't want to expand anything by that, but, we're looking at the fact now, if you were to expand by that, would you be better running it out of the same branch, or would you be better trying to branch elsewhere and running them in parallel? Would it be overwhelming if you had it all in the one place? Do you want to do it remotely, satellite branch? We don't know what we're doing, but we feel 30.
You've got to test, haven't you? I think you've got to, test small, and often. And
this is why me and Dave are good business partners, because I'm quite risk averse.
Yeah,
I'm not addicted to it, but it gives me a fucking buzz.
Yeah.
And then Dave's like measured, but it's good because we work well together. But if I put a good business plan towards him, he'll support me on it. Yeah. And if it's a bit mental, he'll be like, right, no, I need to do this first. And
Dave was that guy at Vertex when we all worked together. It's like you'd be like, we need a new yard because we're going to become a NAS member in the next few years. So this yard will never do. It needs to be. And then like, Dave, you start looking for the yard. He's like, yep. And then 2 minutes later, well, not 2 minutes later, but like that, the next day, he's like, I found a yard. It's a 13 grand deposit. I was like, where are we plucking this 13 grand from? Like, I don't worry about it. I paid it. Like, what? Where? And you look at the bank, you're like, what? Sometimes you need to.
I can be a bit like that as well. And, but no risk, no reward, but it has to be measured. And that's where, I've got a couple of pals now that have got scaffolding companies and they run them on their own and they're bigger than us. And I look there and go, I don't know if I'd want all that pressure on my own. It's good to be able to share it. There's some problems in it sometimes, because if there's 2, 3, maybe the more people, probably the more problems. Maybe more ideas, more opinions. And then if you're on your own, it's all on your shoulders, isn't it? So
I don't know how I'd like it.
Yeah. I often thought about it and like, I don't know if I'd like to be on my own.
It's the same with me with this now. Like, I'm at the point now where I can pick up enough work to maybe start thinking about employing somebody, be it as an inspector, and I do a lot more instructing, or vice versa, or there are opportunities there to grow the business.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I need to know what that business is going to look like at scale. And if it's going to mean me going back to how I was previously, like fucking not micromanaging, but taking stuff home and like, obsessing over stuff and working really long hours. Do I really want that again? Or do I want to try and earn as much as I can and then invest it in other businesses? Yeah. It's an interesting one.
A lot of the psychology and mental well-being and all that sort of stuff starts to come into it as well now. And that's what everybody in the whole industry, as the construction industry as a whole, the statistics with mental health and the stresses that are put on everybody, it's not worth broadcasting, really, is it? It's not a good advert to try and invite
people into the industry. Yeah, but
we have to just work around it now because we've been involved in it so long. I don't have another industry, and over the years I've become really interested in it. When I first worked with Cape Offshore, they'd done a lot with behavioural safety. They invested a lot of money in a lot of us doing training, and I went away and done a lot of courses in psychology and become interested in all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
And now I've started to employ it in our own business, so much so that we ended up employing our own work-based behavioural psychologist.
It's fascinating stuff, isn't it?
A lot of, for us, when you've got a budget like Cape Ultrad, it doesn't matter.
I can bring in a fucking golf coach if you wanted.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
When we were trying to do it at our scale, it did start to get people talking about it, because it's like we came to this point where we've put a budget against it, and we can't charge anybody for it. It's not back charged. It all comes from profit. So, but we're doing this as part of the benefit of the business. And that's where we're moving towards now, and getting really interested in all this sort of stuff and bringing these specialists in and trying to see if it improves at the back end.
those small, I mean, not only just looking after the people's mental well-being, but those small efficiencies that it can breed as well.
Small margins.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you look at any professional industry that, like for example, professional footballers and professional football and that, they're all working on small margins. And if you can bring small margins into your business, and then it works, and we've started to do it over the last sort of year and a half. Bringing in a guy called Chris Collier is an absolute legend in the scaffolding industry. A lot of people in Scotland will know him from the offshore industry. A behavioural psychologist, specialist in safety and attitude. And we brought him into the company there for a while back. Got him spending time with the guys, and we started doing stuff in the background. I read a lot of books and things will interest me, and I think, can I implement that in my business? Psychometric testing and all this sort of stuff that probably a lot of bigger companies do. I'm not saying we do it on a huge scale. It's almost like I'm playing experiments with it. But, pairing people up with who can work together and attitudes clashing and stuff like that.
Well, I think that's the difference between a good business and a great business, because you are looking for those marginal gains. I mean, I don't know, have you ever watched The Founder? It was about the McDonald's thing, and he's looking for those little tiny efficiencies and how can we make this quicker? Yeah. Because another person who talks a lot about marginal gains, and I've not read any of his books. I don't know if he's done any actually, but he was on a podcast with Stephen Bartlett a while back. He was the coach for the British cycling team, Sir Dave Brailsford, I think I got his name right. Fascinating guy, man. Just like, where can we find these tiny, tiny gains and compound them over time to make big changes in organisations and with teams? Fascinating stuff. Absolutely fascinating stuff. And I think the people with their eye on it.
Don't get me wrong. There's been scaffolders that you come across. You know what scaffolders are like? They are notoriously knuckle draggers. But one thing I like about them is a lot of them are, the scaffolding industry for me has opened up a lot of opportunity for people who are not naturally academically gifted. Yeah. And I've been on sites where you bring an engineer in who's got master's degrees coming out his arse. Yeah. And you bring him on the site and you go, this is my foreman scaffolder, and we're looking at this job, and this is the idea that he came up with. And he's come up with this scaffolder has came up with a scheme in his head, sketched it on a bit of paper, and handed it to the engineer. And the engineer looks at it and he's like, it's pretty fucking good, that. And he goes away and makes sure the calcs work. Yeah. And these are the guys that probably can't, like, a lot of them can't, read or write or weren't technically gifted at school. Yeah. But we're all engineers in some way.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is, and it's tubular engineering, really.
But and then it's just mixing all these people together. And the scaffolding industry, I love how it allows that, is you've got really academic people with master's degrees and all that sort of stuff, mixing with people who don't. And then together, we're creating a brilliant scheme that comes out. And it's like, it amazes me. It's great. It's like two different energies working together, and, everybody benefits out of it. The client gets what they want. And it's actually, although people are taking the gratitude from it, it came from somebody who's not.
Yeah, it's probably the amount of times we've all been there, haven't we, where you think, I'm not putting that there, that won't work. And you change something, you have to send a picture of the job that you built to the engineer, and he has to kind of prove that what you've done works. I know it works.
We just know how it works. Yeah. It's class. I love it. And that for me is why, I really enjoy the scaffolding industry now. I'm that far deep in it now, I can't get out of it. So what else are we going to do except embrace it?
Except, I think the only next step is to win the World Championships. So,
yeah. Well, we could. I looked at the drawing there and I thought I could probably put a 2 or 3 man team in. Yeah. But I don't know if anyone's got a spare belt.
This could be a conversation off air. Do not be surprised.
But if you're a chip and fitting scaffolder, you're just going to see you only need the hammer on the level anyway. You don't need the belt.
No, I've used a lot of system. Yeah, so I'm pretty handy with it. I'm not like bragging or boasting. But I think I keep up with most people.
I'm looking forward to watching the teams tomorrow, and especially everyone keeps talking about the outsiders. There's a team come from Mongolia, and they're right up for it.
Yeah.
And sometimes
the outsiders. I think my money's on Hotrimmer, I think they call it again. They just seem very, very disciplined, very organised. They seem to be taking it very seriously. There seems to be a heavy emphasis on planning, which I like.
Yeah.
So many scaffolders will just go, oh, we know what we're doing. I know what I'm doing. You know what you're doing. So let's just do it.
What they say is that piss poor planning prevents
piss poor performance.
Performance, yeah.
Something like that. But plenty of pints provides plenty of pissed up conversations. So
Yeah.
I think on that note, we'll wrap it up for today, but we're definitely going to do an episode 2, either at your place.
Yeah, definitely. We can get into more depth, more stuff if we want to branch off into the psychological stuff and see if we can get inside each other's heads.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a fascinating chat.
Yeah.
Ross, thank you very much.
Thanks for having us on.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Nice one.